Good morning. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Jen, and this is Views from My Backyard. Today I want to talk about slowing down. In this world where we feel like running, and rushing all the time, we will discuss slowing down and what I try to do to slow down. Sometimes it's voluntary, sometimes it's not. This is another chat where I am riding around. I am bringing Barlow to the vet today, so he is right here. He will probably pop up a little bit, a couple times in the video. I'm sure he will. He doesn't stay sitting in the back very good. But anyways, so slowing down. I can get myself anxiety in the worst way, especially, say, right now. I did a video not that long ago about how I was frustrated about how cold and rainy the weather is, and we had a week of really nice weather where it was close to 80 degrees Fahrenheit and it was sunny, and now this entire week it's been like 40 to 50 degrees Fahrenheit, and it's been rainy and damp, and we're supposed to have a nor'easter or something along those lines. So it's not going to be super warm, and it's going to be pretty wet. And we are at Memorial Day weekend, which is the day I'm filming this is the 22nd of May. So we are past the last frost date. It's one of those times where you think, okay, Memorial Day in the United States is supposed to be the beginning of summer, when everybody begins to take their summer vacations and whatnot. Well, it's kind of crappy, and I don't know that it's going to be really awesome this weekend. It looks as though it's going to be crappy, just like this. Hopefully our yard sale will go well. I will try to do some videos during that. And yeah, so the garden, I have not been able to really put a lot more stuff in than I've already put in. The stuff that I have put in is kind of cooler weather crops, so they are good. I really, really wanted to start my corn, start my stuff that needs to go in my in-ground garden, which needs temperatures that are pretty warm. Are you going to bark? You're not going to bark? Good boy. He barks a lot of times when I stop for stop signs and things like that. Maybe he's finally grown out of that. We'll see. We'll see when we get further on the road. He will probably bark when we get further along because that's how he is. Anyways, so I'm glad I didn't plant the things that need to have the soil be at least 60 degrees or warmer to germinate, because since the weekend it has cooled off and it's not really warm enough to germinate things. I would be afraid of them rotting, and there's no sun, so there's no way to, even if I had planted anything, even if I covered it up with something, there's not really any way to keep the warmth in, because there's no warmth, and there hasn't been for 4 days so far. So I'm really glad that I didn't plant the things that I wanted to plant in my in-ground garden. And this weekend is going to be pretty ick. I don't think it's going to warm up until early next week. So Monday I might be able to start planting things. I'll have to see what the weather looks like for next week. Monday might be the day to do some in-ground gardening. So that's where I'm at with the garden. And I've come to the place where I can be as frustrated as I want with Mother Nature, but it is not going to help me out any because I can't do anything about Mother Nature. The weather's going to be crappy, and that's pretty much all there is to it. I just have to do the best I can and wait for the weather to be nice to put the things outside, which maybe Monday, depending on what the weather is going to be like for the rest of the week. Monday might be the day to get things out. That would be a plus. So the weather has forced me to slow down, whether I wanted to or not. I find that I burn out once I go and don't stop. It's really easy for me to burn out. At this point in my life, I would rather hang around at the house and do things at home and not have to run and rush around and work so hard at the things that I do. But I do enjoy the gardening, and I want to make sure I get the gardening in so I can have a good garden and I can do some preserving and things like that. But I feel like overall it's good for your health, good for your mental health, for you to slow down sometimes. And a lot of times the winter is a really good time for me to slow down because there's nothing going on. But I have to remember when I start getting into the busy season that I want to be slowing down a little bit. I don't really want to rush around. I need to remember to take time for myself and take time to slow down and do things intentionally. And I think a lot of that, a lot of being intentional about things is a very good thing, because it does force you to pay attention to what you're doing, and it does force you to slow down with what you're doing because you're paying so much attention to it. So that is what I'm going to try to do with the garden. I have dabbled in meditation to some extent. Although I don't anymore really sit in meditation very much. It's easier if I'm going to meditate to sit out on the deck and look at the mountains and just sit there and meditate like that. I find that to be an easier way. It's hard for me to slow my brain down. My brain just wants to keep going and going, as is a lot of people these days. But meditation kind of helps me slow down a little bit. It makes me also pay attention to what's going on around me and to not necessarily, I wouldn't say believe everything that goes on in my head, but it gives me a reason to not listen so intently to things in my head. It makes me look at it and say, okay, that's just my brain talking. So meditation does help me slow down. It's hard for me to keep myself from getting anxiety when I intentionally take time to not do anything. It's easier for me to sit there and watch YouTube videos or mindlessly scroll through Facebook for hours, because it's something that I'm not paying attention to what I'm really doing, and it's just kind of like one of these automatic responses. So I'm trying to not do that. I have gotten to where I am avoiding scrolling through Facebook as much as I can. I do get on Facebook and social media a little bit, but I am trying to curb that. because I do find that I do sit there and just scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll, and then all of a sudden an hour has gone by, and I'm like, oh, I was going to do this and this and this, which brings my anxiety level up. So those are kind of things that I'm doing to slow down a little bit. I've got to remember that this weekend I'm going to be spending most of my time at my parents' house. I'm going to be spending a very little time at my house. So there's nothing really that I can get done at my house. There are things that I want to make sure, like things that are clean before I go over there, such as the dishes being done and crap like that. Make sure that I don't have anything in the fridge that's going to go bad in the weekend. So there is, stuff that I do have to do to prepare for that. But because the weather is not really great, I'm not pulled in a million different directions, because I'm not pulled in the direction to go outside and do stuff. As much as I really need to mow the lawn, I could have mowed the lawn this week when it was cold and just not rainy, but I didn't want to because it was too cold. So I'm not going to mow the lawn in the time that I'm going to be here because it's wet now. So I just have to remember that, the stuff is still going to be there. It's still going to be there. And I believe as a society, a lot of us just push and push and push to get things done, to be a perfectionist. I have a tendency to hold off on doing things because I'm such a perfectionist. But in all reality, if I don't do something perfectly, it's not necessarily going to be detrimental. If I have to redo the thing again, that might be something that might be a little detrimental, as in do it right the first time so you don't have to do it again. There are instances like that, but, if I plant the garden wrong, I'll just, I wouldn't be digging up plants and putting them somewhere else. I would just either plant something new somewhere else at a later time or just do it differently next year. And I've got to remember that perfection isn't necessarily the best way to do things. You can do things, and I used to always say, oh, I don't half-ass things. And I don't half-ass things, but at this point, when I look at what I call half-assing, it would be doing things part way or not necessarily good enough. But sometimes you just have to do what you gotta do in the time you have to do the thing. And if it's not perfect, you just have to leave it as is until you can finish it up. That's something that I'm doing with, say, my boiler chimney. It was raining last weekend, and my boyfriend came over and helped me, and we ended up getting the very top bracket, the last bracket by the roof where the stovepipe is supposed to go, and we managed to do that one day. And then the next day, after it rained, we went out and put up another length of stovepipe. It's now above the roof, so I can hook it up on the inside and get it running if I want to, but I still will have another length of stovepipe that I need to put up. But the weather was just not great, so we did what we could and as much as we could, and for now we're just going to leave it until the weather is good enough to be able to finish up the outside. And then once I get the stovepipe, or even before I get the stovepipe completely up, once I get it connected and hooked up inside the house, then I can work also on taking the stovepipe down from the outside, the part that is bent and is leaking into the house. We've gotten several heavy rainstorms and it's leaking water in the house, so that's not good. And I just have to realize that the way things are going, it's going to be a slow process. I would love to just bang it all out in one weekend, but that's not a reality of how that's going to work. And sometimes we find that we might not have the proper tools or hardware, so we do things part way, and then we say, well, we're just going to have to come back and redo this at another date once we go to the store and get the other hardware. So that's something that used to really give me stress, but I just got to think that doing it part way is better than doing it no way. That also gives me a break from the constant go, go, go of the task that I'm working on. It gives me a little bit of time to step back and look at how I'm doing the task. And then I can assess, well, what do I need to do next? What are my next steps? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? It gives my body a little bit of a break. Instead of the go, 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 I can stop and focus on something else instead of pushing myself so hard and then realizing at the end of the day, oh, my back hurts. I can barely walk because I've done this all day. So it's one of those things where I guess in a sense the weather, by forcing me to slow down, is not really a bad thing. And I need to rearrange my thinking to think of it that way. We're in Vermont now. Barlow's Vet is in Vermont. And it's going to be a busy weekend, but I do have to remember that I am going to slow down. I'm going to be intentional. Hopefully the weather won't be too terrible. I think it's supposed to stop raining on Saturday at some point in time. There's some other people around town that are going to be having yard sales also, so hopefully there will be a lot of people out looking for yard sales. That would be awesome. And it'll be a good weekend as far as people wise to do that. All right. Now the dog's going to start barking because we're at a stop sign. And I have to wait for the cars to go by before I can pull out here. And I think he's probably going to talk a lot because we're going in a direction that's different than when I go to my parents' house. So if he even notices, he might notice, he might not notice. He's just kind of laying in between the seats with his head on the headrest. He's not putting his head up too much. And thank you guys for watching today. Again, my name is Jen. This is Views from My Backyard. Have a nice day.